Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. It has been a while since I've done a sit down video for you guys, but I figured I would do an updated Q&A, and I asked you guys yesterday on an Instagram photo to send me any questions you have. So I'm going to bring up that post and just dive right into it because I did get quite a few questions. I wasn't expecting this many, so I'm probably going to have to cut this video into 2 parts because it would probably be way too long. So I'm just gonna dive right into the video once I load these comments and start answering all of your questions. So the first question is from Maddie_Hope_Marcus, and she asks, how do you stay so fit so soon after having Shay? And I get this question pretty frequently, and I wish I had a better answer for you guys, but honestly, it's just all genetics, I think. I have a fast metabolism because I don't work out, I don't really eat healthy, but I think just staying super busy and active with the girls helps a lot. But yeah, I don't work out and I don't have a good diet. I wish I did. I want to get better at that going into the new year. I want to start drinking more water and eat healthier because honestly I have a diet of a 5-year-old. So I don't really know. I think it's just all genetics. Okay, and Maddie also asked, what are your sick toddler remedies? And my go-to is the Nose Frida, staying well hydrated, lots of vitamin C. Steam showers or baths work really well. The vapor bath from Johnson & Johnson, the green bottle, works great. And just lots of rest, and Pedialyte pops are great too if they're dehydrated. But those are my top toddler remedies for when Bailey's sick. The next question is from Devlyn R, and she asked, what was the hardest thing when transitioning from a mom of 1 to a mom of 2? And for me, it was struggling with accepting the fact that I was going to have to give Bailey less of my attention. Her and I just have such an amazing bond, like I'm sure most of you guys do with your kids or your first child. That closest that you have with them, your firstborn, so you obviously have such a tight-knit bond with them, and just realizing that I was going to have to share the attention with her and her sister was probably the most difficult part for me. Okay, Madeline_Duncan asked, what does Bailey want for Christmas? And if you guys watch my previous vlogs, you know that Bailey is such a tomboy, and all she wants for Christmas is trains and trucks and cars. So we got lots of those for her for Christmas. I can't wait to see her reaction on Christmas morning. Kyle Nee Knox asked, are you going to have any more kids, and would you try for a boy? And it's funny because Adam and I have actually been discussing this a little bit more recently because other people have been asking us in person when they see the girls if we plan on trying for a third and if we would want it to be a boy. And I think obviously we'd want a boy, but if we had another girl, I think we'd both be ecstatic as well because we're obsessed with our 2 girls, and I think it's just so much fun being a girl mom. I absolutely love it. Funny thing is, I actually pictured myself being a boy mom, and I never pictured myself having girls, and here I am with 2 girls, and I absolutely love it. But if we had another girl, I would be ecstatic too, but if we had a boy, obviously we'd be thrilled. But we haven't fully committed to the idea of having a third, but I think I can convince him. Okay, Courtney Conrad asked, how has Bailey adjusted to being a big sister? And she has honestly surprised me tenfold. The first couple weeks were very difficult, and I thought, oh my gosh, this is gonna be so hard. And after the first couple weeks of her adjusting, I vlogged a little bit of that, and I showed you guys the difficulties we had in the beginning. Ever since we brought Shay home. It was pretty hard on her for the first couple weeks. She fought her sleep really hard, and I thought I was never going to sleep again between both of them being awake so much. But after like the second week, she was fine, and she ignored her a lot in the beginning, but now that Shay is able to sit up more and she's more aware and can grab things and kind of play with her a little bit more, Bailey is like all over that, and she thinks it's so fun, and she tries to like show her toys and teach her things, and she tries to teach her like how to crawl and like how to do different things, and it's just so amazing to watch their bond already form at such a young age. So it just makes me so excited for the future. Classy_Marie7 asked, has Shay popped out a tooth already? Did she go through the whole fever, diarrhea, grabbing her ears phase? and she is like this close to popping her 2 bottom teeth. I can see them about to pop through any day now, but she hasn't gotten the fever or diarrhea or grabbing her ears, no. Sarah E.K. Moody asked, how do you coordinate the girls' naps and what is Shay's current nap schedule? So I don't really know how I coordinated their naps, to be honest. I think I just started putting Shay down at the same time Bailey went down for her nap, which is around 12:30. I just started putting Shay down at that time, and then she just fell into her own routine. She's not on a schedule by any means. I don't watch the clock at all. I more so just watch for her tired cues, and once she starts rubbing her eyes and starts getting fussy, I know that she's tired. And then I put her down in her crib right away. So I think that's my biggest advice, is to not really watch the clock and to more so watch your baby's tired cues and to make sure that you don't put them down when they're overtired, because that's just a recipe for disaster, and they're not going to be able to soothe themselves to sleep or get to sleep because they're going to be past that point. So I always make sure to look out for those cues, and once Shay shows me that she's tired, I put her down instantly, and that's what seems to work for her. Okay, next question is from Kylan Ovok. Sorry if I'm pronouncing your guys' names wrong. She asked, do you or did you feel guilty about having to switch to formula for Shay? My girl has reflux and it's really hard to breastfeed. I'm thinking formula might be easier, but I just feel so guilty about quitting breastfeeding. I didn't feel guilty at all. There was a little part of me that was just upset more so with my body and just the situation, but I never felt guilty or ashamed to start formula feeding Shay. I think obviously fed is best, and do whatever you think is right for your little one, and that's the bottom line. Don't pay attention to what other people have to say. Just focus on what's right for you and your baby. Omer Perez Z asked, are you thinking of getting Bailey off to kindergarten? And yes, she will be going to kindergarten, but she's not even 3 years old yet, so we haven't even started thinking about that. Amanda_Annison asked, how old were you when you became pregnant with Bailey? And I was 21 years old. JC Latour 93 asked, did you have to transition any of your girls to a crib? If so, what are some tips or pointers? Trying to transition my 4-month-old and having a tough time. So I'm trying to remember what we did with our girls. Bailey was swaddled. She absolutely loved the swaddle. Shay hated the swaddle. We figured that out like pretty late, but Bailey loved it. So I think swaddling helped. If your baby is like being swaddled, the swaddle is definitely something that helped Bailey transition pretty well. I think white noise is another huge thing that helped both of my girls. We have very loud white noise in their room and blackout shades. So it's super dark in there. They have white noise, and if your baby likes being swaddled, those are my 3 top pointers for transitioning into a crib. Miss Canavan asked, I have a 3-month-old and was just curious about the sleep training you did with your girls. Can you please talk a little bit more about it? How old were your girls when you started, the nighttime routine, etc.? Okay, so I've gotten a ton of questions asking if I can explain a little bit more about what we did with the girls. So we did a controlled cry it out version of the cry it out with both of them. We did the exact same thing and it worked great for both of them. We started, I want to say around 4 months. I can't exactly remember how old they were, so don't quote me on that, but I think they were around 4 months old. Your pediatrician will give you the okay of when you're allowed to start cry it out if that's the route that you decide to go. And cry it out can be such a controversial subject. That's why I'm kind of hesitant to talk about that a little bit, but I'm just going to kind of explain what we did. And I'm obviously not a doctor or a pediatrician, so if you guys have any questions about the route that you decide to go, talk to your pediatrician and they can help you, but I'm just going to explain what worked for us. So I'll just start by explaining the nighttime routine that we did when we started the cry it out with both of them. So we would feed them in the rocking chair, and then when they were done eating, they would be drowsy, but they wouldn't be asleep. And I think that's key. When you lay them down in their crib, you want them to be awake, because you want them to learn how to self-soothe on their own. So that's what we did. We would lay them down in their crib drowsy and then give them their binky if that's what they take. Both of my girls took a binky at this point, so we would give them the binky and then we would walk out of the room. And if they start to cry, we would go in every 7 minutes, and we wouldn't increase or decrease the time ever. So we would go in after that 7 minutes is up, and we would try to get them to calm down. So what we would do is either go shh, a bunch of times stroke her face, her back, rub her belly, whatever, give her her binky if she had lost it. And then we would spend no more than like 30 minutes at a time in there, and we wouldn't ever pick them up. I think that's another important thing too, is you don't want to pick them up because then they'll get reliant on that. So obviously if they're like unconsolable and they're just beyond that point, obviously pick them up. But my girls never really got to that point. They were just kind of fussing here and there. They would cry obviously, but it never got to the point of like, oh my gosh, I need to pick up my baby. Like, we knew that you have a mother's instinct. So if you think that your baby is just past that point, obviously pick up your baby. This is just what we did. So we would stroke their face, their back, give her the binky, and then walk back out after like trying to get them to calm down a little bit. And then we would walk out, and then if they continued to cry, go back in every 7 minutes and repeat that process. And Bailey had a harder time adjusting to it. It took her a couple weeks before she was starting to sleep through the night, but each day gets easier. So it's not like a cry fest every single night. It does get easier, but she wasn't sleeping through the night until a couple weeks after we started fully. And Shay took to it amazingly. She was sleeping through the night, I think, after like the second or third time of doing this. And so each baby is going to respond to it differently, but just trust your mother's instincts and go with whatever you feel is best for your baby. This is just what worked for us, and I've gotten a lot of questions about it, so I thought I would explain it a little bit more. Okay, amp_0705 asked, how was it transitioning from one child to two? So I kind of already touched on that in a previous question. Realizing that Bailey wasn't going to be the only child anymore was really hard on me, and that was a transition for myself in itself. But for Bailey, I already explained this, it was just the sleep regression. So she went through a major sleep regression in the beginning, and that was probably the hardest part. Victoria 13XO said, I know you mentioned Shay had reflux. What were the noticeable signs for you that caught your attention besides spit up, and how did you manage? Okay, so I had a gut feeling in the beginning that she had reflux, and I mentioned it to her pediatrician a couple times, and they kind of just like brushed it off, and they said that the symptoms that I was explaining to them were normal. And I think it was at her, oh gosh, I don't know. I think we actually made a separate appointment to go back in just so I could talk to them about reflux. It wasn't at one of her checkups, I don't think. But I think it was around 3 months or so is when we went in to discuss it again. And so the signs that I noticed besides spit up was she hated being laid down flat on her back. She absolutely hated it. So I was constantly having to keep her upright. I noticed after feeds especially, she hated being laid down on her back. She got really violent hiccups. So it wasn't just a little hiccup, it was like violent. So her whole body would hiccup with her. And I'd never seen that before. And her breath also smelled almost acidic, like sour milk. And that's another sign. I'm trying to think of anything else. I think those are the main things that I saw that were different from Bailey. And I know you're not supposed to compare, every baby's different. But those were kind of alarming to me, and she was just so unhappy all the time. So I wanted to bring it up again to her doctor, and so they finally gave her a prescription for Zantac. And after we gave her the first dose of that, it was like a night and day difference with her. She was a completely different baby. So I'm so glad that I pushed and pushed and pushed with her pediatrician to try Zantac, because she ended up obviously having reflux. And so from my personal experience, go with your gut. Obviously, you know best, you know your baby best, and your doctor just sees them at monthly visits. So they don't really truly know your baby. Obviously, they're the expert, but you know your baby best. So if you think that there's something wrong with your baby, I would just be persistent and keep mentioning it to your doctor. And you just have to tell your doctor, honestly, like what you want and go for it. Because I've never been that kind of person. I've always just kind of like trusted my doctor, like thinking that the pediatrician knows best, and I wouldn't really voice my opinion. And if they told me everything was okay, I would believe them. But I just had a really strong feeling that she had reflux, so I'm so glad that I was persistent about it, because now she is a completely different baby and she's so much happier. Ashley Pierce 182 asked, how did you and your husband meet? So I don't want this video to be too long, so I'll leave the Q&A that my husband and I did a couple months ago. I'll leave it in the cards of this video, so if you guys want to go watch that one, you can. Vernity Ray asked, how do you cope being a military wife and a stay-at-home mom with 2 girls? I love you so much, I admire you so much, and think that your kids are gorgeous. Thank you. How do I cope being a military wife? I don't know. Honestly, this is just all I know. We've been very fortunate that we've been stationed in California our entire marriage, which is where my family is from. So we've never really been more than a couple hours away from our family. So I've been very blessed in that regard. We've never had to be out of state. Adam's been on 1 deployment since we've been married. So we've been very fortunate there too. And it wasn't a combat deployment either. So it wasn't something that I was like fearing for his life every day. We were able to talk to him daily, FaceTime him daily. So yeah, I just think we've been very lucky. I know our time is ticking and we're not going to be able to stay in California forever. But I don't know. I don't know if my husband's going to stay in the military forever. I don't even think he knows. It's just kind of like every day it changes. So I don't know. We will see. Okay, I think I'm going to answer like 2 more questions because I think this video is already super long. Okay, Lindsay Noel asked, why don't you wear a wedding ring? Okay, so when Bailey was, I think she wasn't even a week old at this point. I think I was changing her diaper, changing her clothes or something, and my wedding ring scratched her, and it was pretty bad. And I felt awful. And so I ripped it off, and I remember telling myself I wasn't going to put it back on until she was much older. And I don't think I put it back on until she was like a 1.5 years old. And then I did the same thing with Shay. So it's just been sitting in my jewelry box, and Bailey is constantly playing in that, playing with my jewelry and stuff. And she actually broke my wedding ring. And it's not bad, it's fixable, but it's just not been a huge priority of mine to fix it. Adam doesn't really wear his wedding ring either, because he's constantly at the gym, as you guys know, and it just clanks with the bars and stuff. So yeah, I mean, we have no trust issues at all, so it's not a huge issue for us if we wear a wedding ring or not. I don't really care. So yeah, that answers that question. Okay, shoot. I think I scrolled to the bottom on accident. Okay. How long have you been married? Hannah1611 asked. Adam and I have been married almost 4 years. It'll be 4 years in April. Can you do a nighttime routine? I have a nighttime routine on my channel already, but I'm planning on doing an updated one here soon. Yeah. Okay, sorry. Bailey is in the middle of potty training right now. We just decided to start potty training her yesterday, and she was down for a nap, and I heard her screaming for Adam that she has to go potty. So that's what they're doing up there. So if you hear them, that's why. But I'm going to answer one more question because this video I think is already like way too long. So Shelby asked, how has motherhood changed you as a person? Love your channel and sweet fam. Thank you. So if you've been following me for a while, you know that I suffered from an opiate addiction, and I am going on 5 years sober now. So right before I met Adam is when I was probably in the lowest part of my life. And honestly, getting married and having kids has completely changed my life. And ever since I was a little girl, that's always been my biggest dream, is to have a family of my own and to have children of my own and to become a mother. That's always been my biggest dream in life. And so once I was able to attain that dream and experience that firsthand, that alone is just enough for me to stay sober and to live a happy, healthy life. And I know addiction is a very hard thing to overcome, and I was very fortunate enough to overcome that because a lot of people aren't able to. But I did go to rehab and I got sober, and I pretty much just grasped the program and did everything they told me to do. And like I said, once I started my own family, I just never looked back. And I honestly, it's crazy to me because the life I'm living today is a complete 180 from where I was 5 years ago. And I'm grateful every single day for my kids and my husband because this is all I've ever wanted. I don't want to get emotional on here. It's crazy how far I've come. But honestly, my 2 girls are what motivate me every single day to live a happy, healthy life, and I'm so grateful every single day for them. But that is it for today's video. Thank you guys so much for watching. I appreciate you guys sending in your questions. If I didn't get to your question, don't worry. I will be filming a part 2 of this Q&A soon. But give it a thumbs up if you enjoyed it. Subscribe if you're new. Have a great holiday with your family and your loved ones, and I will see you guys in my next video. Bye.